Amon-Ra St. first overall. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I think it's always, when you're talking about the first round, I think it's always a go out and get your guy.
Come on.
Let's go. Oh, man, my heart was beating on that one.
I can just tell you, when we get down to the actual numbers and projections, that team is going to score a lot. There's a lot of fantasy goodness.
There's 50 feet of shit and then Kyler and Edwards.
So forget that. I don't want to draft guys on bad teams.
Doesn't matter. They're going to figure out a way to get the ball. Good offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith is not a good offensive coordinator.
You guys are team 3 and 4. There's no point to take Stroud, right? Is there a point to take Stroud in a best ball format? Oh.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to some late night FFPC Main Event live draft coverage. $2,200 entry, $1 million grand prize on the line, $6.2 million prize pool. I'm your host, as always, not as always, most of the time, Aiden LaCorey. Joining me, as always, Dave Tripoli. And live from Alaska, you saw him in the intro talking about go get your guys. People are going to get your guys. Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm. Howard, love to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, you guys are talking about late night. Come on, it's 6 o'clock at night right now. I'm missing dinner, but that's okay. I'm fat enough that my body will eat itself, so I can hang out there with you guys.
Oh man, we had Coupon last week, and we talked. I think at the very end of the show, I think live, we were talking about how you're coming on and live in Alaska, and we're like, yeah, it's late night, and Coop was like, for Howard, that's 6 p.m. Like that's the life. There's a lot of things to talk about. I have it right here next to me. Just in the last week since we did our show with Coop, Rashee Rice has his hearing with the NFL set for September 30th. Matthew Stafford is back at practice despite fantasy Twitter, spreading conspiracy theories that he's died. Quinshon Judkins had his charges dropped, but Adam Schefter kind of hinting that there's a chance he still doesn't sign. Terp's beloved Devon Achane is dealing with an injury that is concerning, to say the least. Brian Robinson's probably going to get traded by the Commanders. He did not play in their preseason game Monday night. And just a couple of trades today. Sky Moore to the Niners with their uncertainty at receiver. Devon Vele to the Saints. Howard was talking about, just before the show started, Jalen McMillan going on IR. So much is going on. We're going to get into this. But Howard, I want to talk about 2 picks in this first round. The first one is Christian McCaffrey at the 104. He's been going as the 108 on average in the main event over the past couple of days. But, this is a guy, I know your colleague Coop has talked kind of very openly about how Christian McCaffrey, if healthy, is going to be a contender for the number 1 overall guy in fantasy. And there's only so many names, even in the top 8 players who can actually do that. He gets pushed up at the 104. And then kind of as a result of that, Jahmyr Gibbs is tied for the latest he's gone in the main event since the start of the week at the 106. So give me your thoughts on McCaffrey going before Gibbs, and then also, your thoughts on pushing McCaffrey up to the 104.
Yeah, it's not really a move that I would do. I would take Jahmyr Gibbs. I love what they're doing with Gibbs, and they saw last year that Gibbs can handle the workload on his own. When Montgomery gets hurt, Gibbs is the guy, and I'm totally into that. And I think it's the way it should be. Listen, I put him on the cover of the Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide this year for a reason. So I'm very much in. McCaffrey, see, what's funny about McCaffrey, it's all a matter of how much risk you want to take, because it is true. The offense runs through him. When he's healthy and he plays a full season, he is by far and away one of the most explosive players out there. Is he getting a little older? Sure. Are we concerned about the injuries? We always are. But if you draft injury agnostic, you have to accept the fact that this is a guy with, again, no Deebo Samuel, no Brandon Ayuk for at least the first 6 games, that McCaffrey is going to be the guy. So, I think that you can take him at that spot if you want to. It's just, again, how much risk you want to take.
And I will say, for anyone who's in our chat room tonight and is like, this guy, why am I, what is this guy talking about? You can draft against Howard in the Beat Howard Bender League. There's a Big Gorilla League. Howard, please remind me, it's next Monday, the 25th?
Monday night, the 25th, 10 p.m. Eastern. I think there are 5 spots available.
So if you love Howard, as many do, and you want to just draft against him, or if you're listening and you're like, well, what is this guy talking about? And you think you have an edge based on his takes. Another good reason. Speaking of injuries, Terp, unfortunate news for you and your shares. He goes at the 206 today. Devon Achane already hurt, concerning, lower leg. Where are you at as the Devon Achane Stan representative on his injury front?
Definitely
Okay.
concerned.
How concerned? 1 to 10.
5. I think it's a fair, like, right now I'm not as worried. If we get to this point next week and he's still not practicing and there's still no positive news that are coming out that he'll be up, ready, then I'm going to start worrying because we're getting really close to the season. We're 2 weeks till Vegas. Very exciting time, but if you're a Devon Achane owner like I am in a ton of spots, I did a draft the other night where I got McCaffrey and Achane. I'm extremely excited that I'm buying the dip. I'm a risk. I love risk. So I'm going to take as many chances as I can with a guy like Achane, who I said will outscore Jahmyr Gibbs this year, or this calf injury that might mess things up a little bit. But I'm all aboard the train. I'm not going to get off now, but the calf injury definitely has me worried. Probably won't stop me. Most of my main events will be later in the draft period, so I'll have more information by that period. My risk that I'm taking is a lot more in best ball. Main events are a little bit more different, but I'm not getting off the Achane bandwagon. I hope what Mike McDaniel's saying that he's going to be ready for the start of the season is true, but with calf injuries, they're very tricky. They could lead to a lot more, ACLs and things like that. We've seen
Achilles
injuries.
That's the concern right there. Howard, can you give me any thoughts on the Achane injury and how maybe you're attacking that? And then after that, talk to me a little through this back end of the second round, just a complete running back run here. Just what is this, 7 running backs in a row? But start with me kind of talking through Achane and then get into these 7 running backs in a row.
I mean, I gotta tell you, Turp and I are gonna probably, we're gonna battle a little bit. I'm not a huge fan. I think the bloom is coming off the rose a little bit with Mike McDaniel in this offense.
100%. I agree there.
Achane is a little too reliant on not just the pass, but he's also a little too reliant on the fact of Tua being his QB. Now, maybe Zach Wilson is going to be a perfectly fine, backup and get the ball, with the check downs to Achane. Maybe that happens, but there's just not a lot that I love about this offense. And then, of course, the offensive line isn't the same. It's why is the name of the left tackle who's gone now?
Armstead.
Teron
Armstead.
Yeah, retired.
So he's gone also. So I think that there is kind of a lot working against him. Tyreek Hill apparently hates Devon Achane. He's telling everybody to give Jalen Wright the football as far as the at the goal line. So I just think that it's an offense that I've kind of been losing a little bit of interest in. And yeah, like you just said, it's the calf injury can be a precursor to a number of different things. And if you're going to be as cautious with it, I mean, I think Mike McDaniel kind of watched the same thing happen with Christian McCaffrey, right? He had that calf injury, and the next thing you knew, the Achilles popped, and you were like, okay. So I'm not as bullish on him, and I won't be, somebody who's going to take him. I won't buy the dip there. I'll buy the dip on somebody else. Anybody else. As far as the back end goes,
yeah, please.
I love it. I'm a running back guy. I've always been a running back guy. Call me stubborn, call me old-fashioned. It doesn't matter to me. I always like to make sure. Now, I'll sit there and I'll get my wide receivers early. I've done a lot of drafted on the turn and grabbing like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. and then building my running backs from there. But how everybody reacts to what happened last year. All of a sudden, it's the year of the running back again, and everybody's just more bullish on running back. So that doesn't surprise me. I'm into it.
Terp, I got to ask you an interesting kind of comment there earlier from Rob Phillips, which is, Amon-Ra St. Brown is slowly sliding further into the second. One of the few receivers taken in that round. Adam Hahn responds, he's just had to lose a little more target share to Jameson Williams. Where are you at on Amon-Ra St. Brown? Because they are correct kind of when these drafts really kicked off, even just a couple months ago, he was at that 1-2 turn, and now he's kind of comfortably mid-second. Where are you at on Amon-Ra St. Brown within that Lions offense with a new offensive coordinator?
We know my love affair with Jameson Williams. I really think he takes the next step this year. Am I saying St. Brown's going to regress to where Jameson Williams outscores him? I'm not getting that crazy, but I think it's possible.
Wow.
I think it's possible. I don't think it's a crazy statement.
No.
I'm just out on St. Brown. I just like guys around him that are being drafted in that range better. I like Thomas. I like London. I like Collins. I like Puka. Obviously Neighbors, Chase Brown. We talked about Achane, Bucky Irving. I'm probably taking all those guys over St. Brown. I really Howard said it's kind of perfect. If you're picking in that middle of that 5, 6, 7 range, you could really set yourself up with 2 really good running backs and then just not worry about the position for a really long time. Because once you start getting to that like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, yeah, there's some guys that we all like, but there's also a lot of questions that come in with them. When you have guys like Bucky Irving and you have guys like Josh Jacobs, they're a little bit more, what you're going to get. Obviously, freak injuries happen. We don't really think about that stuff, but it gives you that option. So, when it comes to St. Brown, there's just guys I like above him. I'll take Jameson Williams in every draft I get a chance to. He's probably my favorite player to draft this year, outside of maybe George Pickens. But yeah, I'm probably out on St. Brown when it comes to all things considered.
Howard, could you elaborate a little more on the Jameson over Amon-Ra take? Because as Terp said, he doesn't think it's crazy, but I'm sure a lot of people do. Can you talk to me through how you came to that conclusion of why you're ranking? Maybe not.
I love what Dan Campbell did with Jameson Williams when they drafted him. They were like, we don't want him to be just a deep threat. He's more than a one-trick pony. So they carefully measured out what his snaps were looking like and what his route tree looked like. And so far here in the offseason, John Morton has expanded Jameson Williams' route tree even more so. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a definite changing of the guard in that sense. If you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't want to talk about, his shrinking A-dot. Maybe he was in the pool. I don't know. But he's not getting the passes and he's not getting the explosive work that Jameson Williams is getting. So when I look at that situation and I say, Amon-Ra is great for a PPR format, right? He's going to get his targets. He's going to move the chains. But the explosiveness that Jameson Williams has tells me that we could see more touchdowns, longer touchdowns, and possibly even, a much higher set of receiving yard totals for him. So I'm definitely in on that. I actually made that statement a month ago when I said I think Jameson Williams is going to outscore. He's going to outpoint Amon-Ra St. Brown this year. So I'm with you on that one, Turk.
I just want to make a public service announcement real quick. Steve G, Fantasy Sopranos, wherever you're at, I know you're listening, you're probably watching. Please get in contact with me after this so we can have a conversation about not wanting to draft against each other when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, because we talk about this every show and you're in a lot of these shows, and I just don't. You really annoy me when you draft because you draft a lot of the same players that I do. So let's have a conversation when the show's over. If you know where to get me on Twitter, please reach out. Let's get our schedules together so we don't draft against each other, because this would be nothing but torture drafting against you.
What's great about having Howard on is I know pitting Howard and Terp together is always fun. So I know Terp, I was seeing Team 11, our guy Steve G, who Howard, as we told you, is in literally every one of these. Him and Remy LeBeau, shout out to them because they joined every single one of our live stream ones. They're the absolute best. But Team 11 there's 4 teams that started off running back. Steve is zigging while everyone else is zagging. He goes 4 straight receivers: Brian Thomas, Drake London, Ted McMillan, and George Pickens. Terp loves that team. Those are a bunch of Terp guys. Are you in agreement, or as a running back kind of truther, or are you a little wary of a 4 receiver start?
The beautiful thing about fantasy football is that there's more than one way to draft a championship winning team. So I'm not going to sit there and crap on anybody's strategy for what they're doing. Brian Thomas is an elite level wide receiver. Drake London is a target monster for Michael Penix. Ted McMillan will probably finish the year with a 25% target share on Carolina. And I do like George Pickens. As long as George Pickens keeps his, head in the game and, doesn't get all like, oh, me, and understands that he is the secondary role to what CeeDee Lamb brings to the table. Pickens can be super explosive downfield, come down with those contested catches, and really be that complimentary receiver that CeeDee Lamb has needed across the field from him. So I'm in on all 4 players. I think that, if that's how you're going to start your team, you obviously have that strategy mapped out in your head and you know who your targets are for the middle round running backs. And based on the fact that I'm seeing Breece Hall fall to the 4th round here, and everybody's kind of laid off running backs in the 3rd and 4th round, Steve G's going to have himself a nice share of certain guys who are about to be available.
There it is. We just talked about it on the pre-show. Mecca Boca.
Let me see
if that's where he's going.
There it is.
Let's talk about it. Break it down. You tweeted Terp today, or was it yesterday? That wherever you're
today.
What was a tweet about Emeka Egbuka? What I butchered.
Wherever you're drafting, man, it's too low, and you're going to start seeing them just continue when these big money drafts, these $5,000 leagues, these $10,000 leagues, these main events, these gorillas, all these drafts that you're going to see him continue to move up. The hype is
earliest he's gone in a main event.
Which at the end of the day, you're spending $2,200. Go get whoever the hell you want, and if it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, oh well. At least you can say, like, oh, I'm not going to follow the ADP button that FFPC puts out there, and they tell me I'm supposed to take this guy. Screw that shit. Go get your guy. If it's 2 rounds earlier, oh, well. Like, I see in the chat, Pat Joyce over Big Mike. If you don't like Big Mike Evans, don't take him. Just because ADP tells you to do it, go get your guy. The hype on him is out of control. Like, you look at some of his 4th-round guys. Like, to me this year, there's a lot of 4th-round guys I like, but there's also guys in there right now that are stale overall in the industry. Guys like Alvin Kamara, nobody talks about. Terry McLaurin, obviously the contract. Devontae Adams, everybody's worried about Stafford. Tyreek Hill, Howard said it perfectly. So many questions in Miami. Marvin Harrison hasn't got any hype because people are, is he a bust? Is he Kyler Murray? What are the issues? Breece Hall, everybody's talking about Braylon Allen. Xavier Worthy, the Rice situation is confusing. George Pickens to the moon. Gary Wilson, Justin Fields, can he even throw the football? Yeah. So if you feel like Emeka Egbuka, I'm terrible with his last name. I probably said it wrong 10 different times, but I don't care. If you think he's the guy and he's better than all these guys I just mentioned with questions, go for it. Who cares?
I mean, Howard, your thoughts on that? That is the earliest he had gone in the main event over the past couple of days was the 5:02 before tonight when Doggy Boys takes him here at the 4:10, and the big gorilla at the 5:03 was earliest. So, I mean, it's going to keep rising. Is there at any point on Emeka Egbuka for you where the price gets too high? Has it already hit a price that's too high?
No, because I think Dave's right about this, about getting your guy and about screw the ADP. Because, here's one of the things that we're looking at right now. It's like, what ADP range are you looking at? Because are you looking at ADP from, that dates back to April to May? Because that ADP is useless to you right now. What you need to see is where people are going over the last 2 weeks. And that's an important thing. You look at a guy like Egbuka and you look at the situation in Tampa Bay right now. Todd Bowles and Jeremy Licht are both saying the exact same thing. Chris Godwin is right on schedule from where he needs to be. He is, and not one of them has said anything about his availability for week 1, which tells me that they're like, if they're just saying that he's right where he needs to be right now in his recovery, they don't think he's going to be available for week 1. We're 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away from the start of the season. Mike Evans, he's solid, fine, great, love it. But Egbuka is going to be the guy who's going to end up stepping into this Chris Godwin role that we saw last year was insanely explosive. Before, Godwin's ankle got twisted all around into like Alex Smith land, he was absolutely one of the best. He was a top 10 wide receiver in targets and yards and touchdowns. And then boom, the bottom fell out with the injury. If Egbuka is going to be in that role, I'm going to be willing to take that shot on him. It's about looking at the system of the team and what their game plan is. And I think Josh Grizzard, who wants to definitely keep some continuity from last year, also wants to throw the ball more. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used that draft capital on Egbuka. So I'm perfectly fine. And I agree. You take your guys where you want them and forget about what the ADP says. Build your roster how you like it.
You look at 2 guys so far, just in the last week with all the news that's come out, that values are just starting to move up draft boards. We just talked about Emeka. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Egbuka, whatever his last name is. Who cares?
Egbuka.
He's going to get it wrong next time I say it, but who cares? But another player who's going to get drafted here soon is TJ Hawkinson, who everybody was kind of like, but the perfect storm has worked out to where, at least for the first probably 3 weeks, of the season, he's the second option on that team that could be a high-scoring offense. Addison suspended, Naylor's hurt, Jefferson coming back from hamstring. We think he's good, but he should be 100% for the season. But you got to adjust. Like, just because T.J. Hawkinson, like Howard said, was going in the 6th round or 7th round, he's a guy that is going to start gradually moving up draft boards, warranted or not. It's going to happen. So if you're like, oh, I could get T.J. Hawkinson in the 6th round, guess what? You're probably not going to.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to either, because listen, when was the last time that dude played a full season?
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of questions, but we see all these stale names. Like every year, you see the hype, and then you see the names that are stale. And I really think, like, if you look at all these names, I just did the 4th round. Let's do the 5th round now. Nobody's talking about Cortland Sutton at all. Mike Evans, nobody's talking about. DJ Moore, not a soul's talking about. Nobody wants to talk about DK Metcalf. Everybody's talking about Travis Hunter. Everybody's talking about Jameson Williams. Everybody's talking about RJ Harvey. They all hype. Chuba Hubbard, another guy nobody's talking about. All these names, a couple of them are going to be really good. It's just figuring out which one it is, and that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a lot of people in the chat are saying, Steve G said ADP is completely out the window this time of year. As Sean Green mentions, ADP in the Vegas drafts is done.
Moving up.
Yeah, there's no ADP in the Vegas drafts. And then as Howard said, it's like people are out there, like supposed fantasy experts on Twitter, talking about ADP, and they're using June ADP or months long.
Worthless.
You watch our shows, one to see our beautiful faces, but two because you get to see up to the minute how high stakes drafters are drafting. You follow Fantasy Mojo to see that movement over just the last couple of days. All the ADP info that I'm going to share is within 3 days in the main event in the Big Gorilla, because that's really at this time of year. You can't even do weeks. It's got to be days because the news is coming in fast and furious and just constantly changing the board. Let's talk about Ricky Pearsall. Howard, I want to start with you. That Niners receiver room is Demarcus Robinson suspended. There's injuries left and right. Jauan Jennings not only is banged up, but also has kind of that contract standoff. Ricky Pearsall is one of the last man standing, along with Sky Moore, who they just traded for. Pearsall's a guy who's going to keep flying up, had an amazing close to the year last season after recovering from a gunshot wound. There's some hope that, that Niners, not only offense, but team rebounds with some health. Where are you at on Ricky Pearsall as maybe a second-year breakout candidate?
These guys who come back from gunshot wounds, it's pretty unimpressive right now. Where's Brian Robinson at this point in time right now, huh? Come on. I don't mind Pearsall. I think Pearsall's fine. I'll buy the dip on Jauan Jennings. I think Jennings is a more complete receiver. I think he's better working out of the slot, and I think he can do it on the outside as well. I think Pearsall's more of an outside receiver. He's a Z receiver. He's good. He's got some talent. Brock Purdy's going to find him. I mean, at this point right now, if you're starting the season and you're looking at what the weaponry is, then you have to default and say, yes, he's going to have it. It's like Hawkinson, right? Somebody's got to catch passes in Minnesota if Addison's suspended and Naylor's hurt. Who else is it going to go? So Pearsall's kind of in that vein for me as well. I like him. He's good. I think the steam that's coming up on him a little too much right now. I'll buy the dip on Jauan Jennings and be happy with that one there.
Terp, what are your thoughts on Pearsall and Jennings as they continue to go in opposite directions?
I'm definitely adding a little bit more Pearsall. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going crazy because I agree with Howard. I think that people are just totally ignoring Jauan Jennings right now. I got a feeling this is going to get the job done when it comes down. He's going to get paid here soon. They can't be going right now. It's Ricky Pearsall and Howard Bender, Dave Turp, and Aiden LaCourie at receiver. They don't got anybody out there that can do anything. They just they actually gave up capital for Sky Moore. That's how bad it is. Like, I don't see any path where he doesn't get his money. And, I think he deserves it. I think he's okay. Pearsall's a lot of hype. Florida, did he really show you anything? He showed you a lot of, flash, but he wasn't a great receiver in college. And then, obviously, injuries last year, the gunshot, all that crazy stuff. But all the positive press he's getting, I'll definitely buy some. But if there is somebody who's rising that'll get, close to, a range where I'm out on, it's probably going to be Pearsall.
Howard, I got to ask you. Well, you mentioned obviously Brian Robinson. That was the gunshot wounds, or is it easy segue there? We'll get into kind of his situation, but let's talk about the other commander in a precarious situation. That's Terry McLaurin. Still has not signed his new contract. Wasn't even present at their game. Where we're 2 weeks out from kickoff. How can can you label McLaurin as a do not draft? Not because you're worried about maybe him missing games, although that is possible, but worried about his ability to play at a high level after missing so much at training camp. We've seen receivers, running backs who do hold out, who are not close to what we are used to seeing from them due to the holdout and stamina and conditioning. Where are you at on Terry McLaurin? He goes at the 408 wide receiver 21 today.
I'm still in on McLaurin. I get it. He's 30 years old and he wants to get paid and he wants a little bit more security in his contract. And I get the fact that he's not in camp right now. And you do worry about soft tissue injuries early on in the season. I'm not ready to downgrade him yet. It basically comes down to, I think McLaurin is kind of holding tough right now with Washington. I think, they don't want to trade him. He wants to stay. But nobody's going to give him $30 million for, per year for the length of contract that he wants. I mean, it's just, you're not going to do that. So it's really just going to be a matter of, when does Terry McLaurin say, I'm going to be a little bitch like James Cook and settle for, significantly less than I was demanding just the other week. So I think it's just going to take a little bit of time, but I'm perfectly fine with Terry McLaurin still. I think that he's a good enough veteran that I'm not going to worry too much, and he's still going to be Jaden Daniels' top target.
Guys, JCM just beat his main event ADP by 2 rounds.
People are freaking nuts, man. They're
607. 607. The previous high was the 807.
I don't understand it. There's every year we always see guys rise. We talked about it. Terrace Marshall, Marquise Callaway, guys like that come out of pretty much nowhere and they rise up draft boards. But I've never seen anything like JCM. Like, he was a guy that, sharps were drafted in like the 19th, 20th round in best ball leagues, but like nobody had any data that backed it up. Now it's like they're going to trade Brian Robinson and he's going to be the next, Bijan Robinson, sixth round in the main event.
Next Alfred Morris.
I don't know. I mean, I guess, but like Austin Eckler is not going anywhere. And
dude, I just want to say
this: Austin Eckler fan.
Sean Green, who Howard, I don't know if you have any familiarity. Sean Green is, a constant viewer, commentator on our live streams. Shout out to him. Also, shout out to Sean Green, just real quick. A single man marketing team for the FFPC Super Bracket was out there constantly hawking it. It has sold out. That elite contest. So thank you to Sean for constantly pushing that. But Sean has been in our chat room since, Sean, you can tell, May, talking about JCM. Like, before anyone knew who JCM was, Sean Green was talking about him. So this has got to be the most eye-opening thing for Sean Green to be here in August, seeing JCM go in round 6 when he was trying to get people in big gorilla drafts to just draft him in round 20 back in May. Howard, talk to me about JCM, running back 24, and also maybe now is a good time to talk about Brian Robinson and, the effects on both the Commanders' running room, but where you'd like to see Brian Robinson end up if he has value, if he goes to, say, Dallas makes sense, but interdivision, it's a weird situation. So talk me through the Commanders' running back room, starting with JCM.
I mean, JCM, listen, I don't hate him as much as Turk does. Listen, he was hurt.
I don't hate him at all.
You just hate his
really
price
like
tag.
the player. I hate his price tag.
So I look at the player here and I look at what we've got going on with Kingsbury's offense and the outside zone, wide zone scheme that they do for blocking. I think it fits JCM very well. You looked at the system that Deji, the coordinator over there, was running, and it's a very similar blocking scheme. And I think that it's definitely going to help JCM advance more. I think the crazy thing, and I agree with you, I think the hype right now, until a trade happens, because people were sitting there bugging me, I was updating my rankings and updating the cheat sheet over at Fantasy Alarm. And, I had people being like, you're too low on him. You're too low on him. I'm like, let him have the job first. If Brian Robinson gets traded, I will happily move JCM up. But I agree. You got Chris Rodriguez, who is there, who's going to help with the short yardage work. Austin Eckler is just a pass catcher. That even Austin Eckler said that. And the reason Austin Eckler is still with Washington is because Anthony Lynn is the running backs coach.
Yep.
And he loves Austin Eckler. But Eckler's days as a running back to me are very, very limited. He's a pass catcher. He's even said that he's only a pass catcher. So I don't worry about that. I think that JCM, I look at him and, outside of here in the in a high stakes environment where you need to, jump ADP a little bit, I'll look at JCM and say, if Brian Robinson gets traded, I'll take him as like an 8th round pick, 7th or 8th round pick, probably at like the tail end of where you've got lead running backs and it kind of moves into a lot more, suspect situations. So I like the player. I agree. I think the price tag is a little too high right now. Everybody gets all amped up this time of year, right? Because everybody's drafting a billion teams right now, and they just want the season to start. So any single thing that you can, shred of news that you can grab onto, it's going to get some helium, and that's what's going to happen. For Brian Robinson Jr., I would love to see him go to Chicago. I would love to see him serve as that David Montgomery type role with DeAndre Swift.
That's what Scott Hoy was saying in the chat. He said the Bears in the Monty role.
Yeah, I think that's probably the perfect landing spot for him. Just good between the tackles running, the occasional pass here and there. I think that's a really nice spot. I don't need to see him go to Dallas. Dallas is a hot mess. I hate that team anyway.
That JCM pick is crazy. But right next to JCM, Turp, let's get into kind of Rashee Rice. And Howard, I do want to hear from you this as well. At the 606, Rashee Rice goes off the board. The news over the last week, we haven't been able to discuss it, was he's going to be available to play for the first 4 games of the season. Then his hearing is set for September 30th. Which honestly, as everyone is kind of saying, almost makes it more confusing, confounding, and frustrating because likely his suspension will come then in the middle of the season. Adam Schefter illuminated that there was conflicting reports that the NFL was pushing for 8 to 10 games. It seems as though more than likely, it seems Schefter gave an aura of confidence that it might be a 6-game suspension. So then you're looking at, missing him from, I think you get it back weeks 11 or 12, depending on the bye. So Turp, Rashee Rice, 606, you get him for the first 4 weeks. Still unknown how long he's suspended for, but probably seems like more than 4 games. What are you doing now?
I love the player, but I don't see how I take him in many FFPC main events or Gorillas or Best Ball, just because there's so much unknown. Let's say he settles and he misses the first 6 games of the season. I'm 99% sure the Chiefs bye is week 7, so that makes he misses the first 7 weeks of the season. That's massive. And I know you're getting him back, but then he has to ramp up a little bit. People think like, he's going to be ready to go. Let's just say he plays 4 games. Like if somebody told you knew for a fact he's going to play 4 games and then miss the next 6, you knew that 100% certainty. Are you really drafting him in the 6th round? I know you could say, well, if I get to the championship, he could be a league winner. I get all that. And there's risk involved, and I understand that. But like the price tag is attached to him.
Week 10 bye.
Week 10. Okay. So still, you're missing. He's going to miss 7 weeks. So with a 6-game suspension, that's massive.
If it's 6 games, there's no guarantees, but that seems like
everything that's out there. It seems like it's going to be at the very minimum 5, maybe 4. I don't know. I like the player. I don't see a path where I can spend the capital on him to, for instance, this team that drafted him makes sense. You could get by with drafting him as your 4th receiver. This team's a very well drafted team so far. Barkley, Achane, JSN, Tyreek.
Looks like a Turp team.
Moore. It is. And Rice, you can store Rice and do whatever the heck you want on with the first 4 games, last 4 games, doesn't matter. This is a team that can get away with it. They have it a tight end with Evan Ingram. They have everything in place to do it. Most teams won't have that opportunity. If the draft doesn't fall as perfect as it does, Rashee Rice is probably going to be your wide receiver 2 or 3. That's when it gets a little bit more tricky because you almost have to handcuff him with nobody ever says in receiver land with like a Hollywood Brown and just like play the situations. But I don't know. I'm just probably out on Rice. It's painful because I love the player, but the capital is attached to him in this type of format where, hey, you gotta make the playoffs, you gotta win your league to get to the dance and shoot out for $1 million. I don't know if you got to be perfect to draft Rice in the 6th round and get away with it.
Howard, instead of asking you directly about Rice, I do want to hear about that, but I also got an interesting question here from Rob Phillips for you, which is not bad, which is who are the top headache players this year in fantasy football?
I think we're
Which is a
kinda
great
go-
question.
I mean, we're hitting them right now.
Yeah.
And who is it? Sean Green actually said it in the chat. Rashee Rice, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Ayuk. Those are
Yep.
the three biggest headache players right now because you know that there's crazy good talent. You know what their roles in the offense are great, but to sit there and to have to invest, it becomes difficult. I actually think that that Steve G's team would have been perfect to take Rashee Rice. You take him in the 5th round instead of Ricky Pearsall because you've got 4 high-level wide receivers right there, and you can sit and wait. Here's my thing on Rice.
Yeah,
I get it. NFL's pushing for 10 games. Players Association's not going to let that happen. I think it settles out at 8, and then probably somewhere around the like on a Friday at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, right? Then all of a sudden they announced that it was pled down to 6 games.
Yeah.
So give me Rice for the first 4. Let me sort it out through the bye weeks until week 12 because that's when he's coming back, and then you have him for the playoffs. So if you do go wide receiver heavy, I think you can spend that kind of draft capital because you know how explosive the player is, and you're getting him at the start of the season. Like you're talking about in a tournament style like this to be able to get Rice at the end is going to be
structure
huge.
is so important with the Rice drafter. If you take Rice, like he said, if you're taking him as your wide receiver 2, it's a little bit more tricky. You got to be perfect. You got to replace that kind of production. You got to be perfect.
There's also something to be said is, again, just the last 3 days in the main event, his ADP is as high as the 412, as low as the 612. So kind of drafters are a little bit all over the place in what to do with him. I mean, Terp, just last week, granted it was before the hearing news, I think we saw him before Xavier Worthy, which was surprising. Obviously that's probably, I don't know if that would happen with the news of the suspension coming after September 30th, but yeah, just a very weird situation.
There's just so many different ways this could go.
It's,
if you have the right structure, shoot for the moon, go for the $1 million because that's exactly what you're going for. If you're taking, like, if Steve G decided, hey, instead of Pearsall, I'm taking Rice, exact perfect structure to do that because you don't need to worry about Rice. You can play him the first 4 weeks. And then just let him relax, let him get rested, and then come back for the time when the money's on the line.
Do you guys have any like non-injury / suspension guys who you consider headache players? Like, is there any just name that you're targeting? Maybe it's a role, maybe it's just they're kind of like. I mean, Terry McLaurin, I think, is going to become one. Or is there?
I think Tyreek Hill is to me. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has dealt with injuries, who is now alienating himself in the locker room with the rest of the team, and he's just kind of problematic. I mean, do you worry that all of a sudden he strips down, midway through a game and he starts, dancing through the end zone on his way to the locker room? I think it's very possible that Tyreek could be that kind of a guy. I don't have a lot of shares of him at all, really, in all the drafts that I've done, simply because as great of a player as he was, it's such a headache. It's such a problem.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill problematic. Shocker. Color me shocked that Tyreek Hill is causing problems. Terp, obviously we've talked about the Bills offense, and it really always kind of revolves around like, hey, like this receiver room, like who knows, clicking the button is going to be tough. But Keon Coleman's getting some recent steam, a lot of positive reports out of camp. He goes at the 812 today. Earliest he's gone over the last couple of days was the 810, so kind of at the peak of his ADP. Team 1 there, Keon Coleman, wide receiver 45. Are you buying into any of this recent buzz about a second-year breakout for him?
I'm really hoping the buzz continues because I'm not on the Keon Coleman bandwagon. I don't see what. Watching him play last year, I didn't see anything that showed me that he was going to be a good NFL receiver. I know things can change. I know year 2, all that good stuff. I didn't like him coming out of college. Didn't like what I saw last year. And I'm definitely not going to be on board this year. He is a 0% Dave Turp guy so far. I don't have any. My stance in Buffalo is draft Josh Allen, draft James Cook, draft Dalton Kincaid, and mix in some cheap receivers if I really want to. But to me, Keon Coleman is not a guy that I'm in on. I mean, with this structure, I guess it makes sense, but the player is not somebody I'm going to be on.
I'm on a different side of that one there. I kind of like Coleman. I get it, right? Last year struggled getting separation, was definitely an issue. I do like the work that he has put in this time. My biggest problem with Buffalo's passing attack, is that you've got Elijah Moore and Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel and even Joshua Palmer to a certain extent, and splashing Dalton Kincaid and splashing Dawson Knox as well. These guys all do the same exact thing.
100%.
The same exact thing. Keon Coleman is the only guy who can stretch the field on that roster. And I think that, if you look at what Josh Allen has done so far in Joe Brady's offense, the big passing games, the deep passing games for Josh Allen have been limited, and I think that he's itching to chuck the ball downfield. I mean, he's not going to be like the hero ball of Josh Allen that we saw, when he first started. I think it's going to be a lot more measured this time around. So, I just think that you've got so many guys who are doing the exact same thing on that offense that give me the one guy who can actually do something different, run different routes, and be a different type of player for this team. I don't love the scheme for him, but I'll take him on the note that he's just not the same old same.
Howard, I want to ask you, Team 8 starts Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Allen, and then Breece Hall as their first running back in the middle of the 4th round. Then here in round 9, they take Braylon Allen. So they have both Jets running backs. There's been a lot of Braylon Allen buzz. And there's been kind of an aura of negativity around Breece Hall. Obviously, this was a guy who was a top 5 pick at times last year. Now he's going pretty comfortably in the mid-4th round after a really disappointing season. What do you make of the Jets running back room, and then specifically Team 8 taking both Breece Hall and Braylon Allen?
I don't think that this is a situation that really requires handcuffing, right? McCaffrey, Garendo, yes. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, yes. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, yes. This one here, not really. I think that there's way too much buzz going on Braylon Allen right now. I think Breece Hall is a free agent at the end of the year. Breece Hall is going to show everybody that he needs to be paid next year, whether it's the Jets or it's somebody else. I think they keep Braylon Allen involved in the offense, but not to the extent that everybody's freaking out about it. I'm still very much in on Breece Hall. I love buying the dip on him. I'm not interested in him and Braylon Allen on the same team because I just, yes, if Breece Hall gets hurt, is Braylon Allen the guy? Sure. But if Breece Hall gets hurt, this Jets team is already in trouble right now. So I don't necessarily know if I love the Braylon Allen hype.
Terp, I want to ask you back to Steve G's team, and not to just keep bringing him up because he's our guy this year. He is our guy this year, on these live streams, but because he drafted Quinshon Judkins and double tapped it with Dylan Sampson. Obviously, the other kind of biggest news besides Rice, Achane, I would say, would be Quinshon Judkins. Obviously, there was the news that the charges were dropped and everyone's rejoicing and his ADP rises. And then Schefter hits us with they might wait for the NFL hearing and conduct policy to work its course. And we know how long that could take before they even sign him. So, Steve kind of hedges his bets here by taking Sampson, who we've talked about extensively as a guy we really liked even before the Judkins news, but gets Judkins and Sampson. So what are your thoughts? Let's start with Quinshon Judkins. First of all, is he still just kind of a do not draft because there's just talk about headaches, or are you kind of in on him now that the charges have been dropped? And then your thoughts on Steve going Sampson and Judkins back to back.
The first problem with Judkins is obviously the Sirius situation that he's in. I know it got dropped and all that stuff, but the NFL is still not going to look away from that and not give him some sort of hammer down on suspension. Number two, he plays for the Browns organization, which is a complete disaster. So they're not going to sign him until this is all done. He drafted the guy in the 2nd round. He got cleared, right or wrong, doesn't matter. Why the hell is he not in camp? Do they know something that the rest of the world doesn't know? Maybe. But what Steve G did is exactly what, a lot of drafters are doing right now. They're taking both. He doesn't need them right away. Maybe he gets, 4 or 5 weeks out of Sampson, usable weeks early. And then, Judkins might come back and maybe take the job later in the season, or Judkins just never signs and you cut him. It's not a best ball type of not something I do in best ball, but in redraft with this structure, I mean, I said it on the last stream with Steve G, and I'll say it again on this one. It's more of a best ball draft than it is a redraft. I mean, I love best ball, obviously, but 5 running backs, 5 receivers. Haven't looked at the quarterback position. The tight end position is going to start getting real ugly when you have to click a button here soon. So I would have probably spent some capital at one of those 2 positions. But, he does a million of these, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. But from the Judkins Sampson side, I'm leaning Sampson, but I'm probably just avoiding the whole backfield, to be honest with you. There's no exciting. I mean, I was on Judkins before this all happened. But once everything happened, like I'm just kind of I'm never drafting Jerome Ford. If Jerome Ford beats me, he beats me. If I'm going to take anybody, it's going to be Dylan Sampson, and just hope the talent of the SEC and the Player of the Year, break out, and Judkins never comes back and he just steals that job. But that's it. I'm never drafting Jerome Ford.
Howard, give me your thoughts on Judkins and the Browns backfield.
I mean, I'm out on all things Browns, right? I mean, yeah. Why are you? They don't have Judkins all settled in there. They haven't given him a contract offer yet at all. I know he's going to want guaranteed money because every second round player now is just suddenly getting guaranteed money, which I think is insane. I mean, what's up with the Browns, right? You just brought in Isaiah Bond. I mean, how many different thugs do you want on one team, right? I mean, between Deshaun Watson, Quinshon Judkins, Isaiah Bond, there's another guy out there who I'm totally blanking on.
Deontay Johnson?
Deontay Johnson. I just read that Deontay's finally falling out of favor over there.
Is Mike Hall still on the team?
Crime.
Mike Hall was their second-round pick out of state, and he got arrested. I believe that was last year.
This organization is just so as a Jets fan, I'm relishing in the fact that there is an organization that looks even more lost than we do. Right?
Starting Joe Flacco and you drafted 2 rookie quarterbacks and not giving one of them a chance is just malpractice. I don't care if you're a Shador fan, Sanders fan, or a Dylan Gabriel fan. I don't care that both of those guys aren't competing to win this job right now on a team that is just what's Joe Flacco best case scenario going to do for you? Maybe sneak you into the playoffs. And I'm not hating on Joe Flacco. He's had a ridiculous career, Super Bowl champion. Nothing negative to say about him, but he's 87 years old. You drafted 2 quarterbacks, which nobody ever does in a draft. And you got Sanders, who most people thought was going to be a first, second round pick, and you stole him. I'm not a Sanders guy, so let me get that out of the way. But you got to give those 2 kids a chance to start and play. I know, Sanders is hurt, Gabriel was hurt. I get all that stuff, but who cares? What if one of them turns out? Then you have the next 4 or 5 years of free money. It just shows you what a terrible run organization it is. And, I don't know what Myles Garrett was doing. I mean, he could have forced his way out of there. And that's the stuff that I don't understand in the NFL. Like, what did he see is going to get any better with that organization? He got his money.
The allure of Cleveland.
I mean, we're talking about might be one of the worst franchises in sports. The NFL, sports.
I will say, Rob Phillips talking about, I'd love to know how Steve G manages a waiver wire each week. Well, for people like Steve G, FFPC does have, the global fab for those owners who have the just dozens upon dozens upon dozens of teams, and they can manage their free agent bids across one page for all of their teams. So we actually added that started last year and to really rave reviews for those high stakes players who are playing a ton of drafts. So if you are one of them and aren't aware of that, check out our global fab tool and feel free to reach out to myself, Jake at myffpc.com, Mike at myffpc.com, support at myffpc.com, and we'll help you get you set up there. It's a great tool, and a lot of our owners have found great use out of that. Let me turn to a common question, Howard, on the show. Last week, Coop was on, and he didn't like me saying Tank Bigsby's his guy, but he was pitching his case for Tank Bigsby. Where are you at on the Jaguars backfield in this draft? ETN 802, Vishal Tudin 910, and then Tank Bigsby at the 1006. Which Jaguars running back are you drafting, if any?
I'll take Tank Bigsby in the 10th and give it a shot there. I mean, I think that he ran more efficiently last year than ETN did. I mean, ETN's a good, solid pass-catching running back, and maybe the two of them can work in tandem with each other. I don't think Bayshall Tutin's ready yet. I don't think his pass blocking is up to snuff. We can talk about the fumbling issues that he does have. And listen, in a time where every defensive back is sitting there trying to punch the ball free, that's going to be an issue. I think Bigsby's an interesting guy because you look at what Liam Cohen did in Tampa Bay last year. Right, you had a top 5 fantasy running back in Rachaad White because Dave Canales just gave him volume, massive volume. Didn't matter how inefficient Rachaad White was, he just kept getting the volume. Well, Liam Cohen was like, no, that's not the running back that I want. And Bucky Irving was much more efficient, and we watched him slowly but surely push Rachaad White out of the way, and Bucky was his guy the entire rest of the way. I kind of feel like he's sort of defaulting right now to Travis Etienne because Etienne's been there. But I think that eventually Tank Bigsby could carve out a much larger role for himself. And then I'll say this, when you're talking about, even in a shared backfield, give me the guy who's the early down back who can take it between the tackles as opposed to the guy who, needs to, run the outside zone or needs to catch a pass to get himself in there. We've seen it now that it's just you're more confident handing the ball off inside the 5 to a guy like Tank Bigsby than you are to a guy like Travis Etienne. So, if you're giving me, him 2 rounds after Etienne, a round after Tutin, I'm fine with that.
The fantasy alarm guys are on Team
They
Tank.
stick together.
Terp, Team 2, CeeDee Lamb 2nd overall, Jake Ferguson in the 8th round, Javonte Williams in the 10th, and to cap it off, Dak Prescott QB8 in the 11th. You've been a proponent of Dak Prescott, and by product of that, I'm assuming you got to be liking, Team 2 going in on the Cowboys. As much as you hate the Cowboys, it's a build I don't think we've seen on these shows, and one that you've actually kind of been pushing for because of the value you can get.
100%. I mean, I despise the Cowboys more than any NFL team, obviously being an Eagles fan. The one thing I don't understand, why the heck did he take Javonte Williams? That's just overkill. Like, I always say the situation when you're looking at stacking, non-stacking, whatever it is, you can only take so many players on the same team. They all almost can't get there. There's going to be spots when they do, but you take Dak, you take Ferguson, you get Lamb. Great. I'm all aboard that. So many ways out there. I'm a sky high on the Dallas passing game this year. I think that easily they could be, a top 5 offense throwing the ball. Javonte Williams is a stiff. He is not a good pick. No matter what anybody tries to say to you, hey, if it works out, it works out. There's always a path that it gets there. He's going to get the opportunity. So if you like opportunity, he's the guy. I just don't think he's a good NFL football player. He's proven me no reason to think anything different. But I like what they did. I mean, I like Ferguson, obviously CeeDee Lamb, the running backs that they got. It's a team that makes a lot of sense. I love Pittman in the 9th round. I think he's probably one of the best picks right now in fantasy football, especially with Daniel Jones being the quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for 2 weeks when the Eagles start their season and stop a mud hole in the Cowboys. But I'm still rooting for the Cowboys to get a lot of garbage points because I will have a ton of George Pickens. I will have a ton of Dak Prescott. I will have a ton of Jake Ferguson, and obviously CeeDee Lamb is a given.
Mo Jenkins, Dak for MVP. Mo,
he always comes out of the clouds.
Mo. The loyalty that you show is impressive and invaluable, but misplaced. Dak Prescott.
We'll see you in Vegas in 2 weeks. Don't be hiding because you got some bets to pay out.
Yeah, you owe us a little bit of cash there. Me and Mo Jenkins is our guy out there. Howard and me and Turp both individually bet with him that the Eagles would win the division over the Cowboys. So he owes us a little cash. Boys, I mean, over here now, what time is it? 10:54 on the East Coast. Denver defense in round 12. Hell yeah. Go get your guy time. Am I right or am I right?
Just I don't get it. I don't understand. It makes no sense. I'm sure we're gonna see
the Brandon Aubrey ones. I can rationalize.
I can rationalize Brandon Aubrey in certain spots. See, anytime 15 on, I could rationalize Brandon Aubrey. I could never rationalize a defense. There was never a path where you could tell me I need to take a defense in the 12th round. Never. There's so many spot starts, where you flip in matchups and all this stuff. And the Denver defense is a really good one, but they also play Kansas City twice. They play the Chargers twice, and they play the Raiders, who are not going to be a slouch of an offense with 2 guys going in the top 10 picks. So I don't know. Defenses are they're never going to be for me.
Howard, Scott Hoyt in the chat says, it's easy to get to Vegas from Alaska.
It is definitely easier to get to Vegas from Alaska. Just a quick hop, skip, and a jump through Seattle. I would definitely consider that. Now that the move has like settled us in, I think I might have to work over the wife a little bit on that front. But
2 weeks away, got plenty of time.
Exactly.
Who knows? Maybe we will see Howard out there in Vegas here. At worst, 2026. We better be seeing you. I know Coop saying he might try and come on out there. So a little bit of a fantasy alarm meetup out there in Vegas 2026. Turp, I got to ask you. Kyler Murray goes in the 12th round at QB 12, and we know the upside he possesses. Barf. Okay, but I guess that answers my question. The question was essentially going to be, is Kyler Murray just a best ball quarterback now? Because that clicking the button, there's no week-to-week consistency from him to rationalize him being your QB1. Or
let's start with the structure of Team 4.
Okay, do you want me to scroll up?
Absolutely stupid. Taking Joe Burrow, investing the capital in Joe Burrow, and then taking Kyler Murray. Like, when are you ever clicking Kyler Murray? When Joe Burrow's off. That's it. If you're investing that kind of capital in a quarterback, these top 5 guys, you got to wait on a Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young. I'm just using random names. Whether you like him or not isn't really relevant. I know quarterbacks can get hurt, and I get all that stuff, but, like, is there really a difference between Kyler Murray round 12 and Trevor Lawrence round 15, 16? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence has a little bit more upside.
Trevor Lawrence is my second highest owned quarterback this year, not named Dak Prescott. So I'm all aboard that train too. Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. He's a terrible NFL quarterback. He is very, very average, and he's never going to be a guy that I would invest a franchise in. But so, I mean, you know where I stand. He's killing Marvin Harrison. He's killing Trey McBride, and he's just killing that overall franchise. So where I stand with Kyler Murray
I wouldn't say he's killing Trey McBride. He peppered Trey McBride with like 116 catches.
Well, that's cool and everything, but hey,
not in the red zone. Not in the red zone.
Touchdown, 2 touchdowns, whatever it was.
He had 2 touchdowns. One was a fumble recovery.
Kyler, the answer to the question is yes. I'm taking him in best ball because I'll draft Marvin Harrison. I will never take him without Marvin Harrison or Trey McBride. It's just clicking him in a redraft league is like literally taking needles to your eyes.
Howard, I want to ask you, the Broncos passing game, we kind of talked earlier about how Cortland Sutton's not being talked about. Bo Nix had a pretty surprising rookie year by most standards. He goes at QB9, but I'm looking at 2 guys, Marvin Mims, wide receiver 52 at the 10:07, and then with the Devon Vele news, Pat Bryant keeps rising as a rookie riser, goes at wide receiver 59. Can the Broncos offense continue their upward trajectory that they showed from last year, or are they due for kind of a sophomore slump, I'll call it, with Bo Nix?
No, I think they're just getting started. Actually, I'm very bullish on the Broncos. I'm bullish on Bo Nix. What I love about Bo Nix, and here's the funny thing: if Josh Allen's rushing touchdowns ever get limited, he's Bo Nix, right? 3,700 yards, through the air, 500 yards on the ground. I love Bo Nix, but what I love more about it is I love the Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi offensive structure. Like that's what I love the most. It funnels targets to the X receiver, which is why I'm heavily invested in Cortland Sutton. And, Terp, you said nobody's talking about Cortland Sutton. I love the fact that nobody's talking about Cortland Sutton because here's a guy who is dominating the targets on that team. 10 touchdowns 2 years ago with weak yardage. Last year it was almost 1,100 yards. Good solid year for him. You bring in Evan Engram, who handles what Peyton and Lombardi like to call the Joker role, right? We've seen that. It's a non-wide receiver who lines up like a wide receiver, can run routes, has good hands. And I think Evan Engram is going to kind of fill that role. We've seen him do this, in years past. Marquez Colston was the first one that I can immediately just identify, who actually started off as a tight end, but after all the work that he was doing in that scheme, they just kind of made him a wide receiver, and that's really where Marquez Colston was. Michael Thomas, the X receiver, targets funneled to him. Mike Williams, when Lombardi was in Los Angeles, targets were funneled that way. So, if you kind of look at the, mixing and matching and see what they want to do, you can see that Lombardi and Peyton right now are building the Broncos in the image of what the New Orleans Saints used to be, right? You've got J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey doing that Ingram Kamara thing. You've got Sutton playing the X receiver as Michael Thomas. And then you've got Evan Engram, who can be cut in that same mold as what Jimmy Graham used to be. I remember when Jimmy Graham was in this Joker role for 4 out of 5 years that he was that they were just dominating in targets and receptions at the tight end position. So I'm bullish on this. I think that Mims is just a field stretcher. I think Pat Bryant becomes a really high quality Z receiver who has the capability of being the X if anything happens to Courtland Sutton. So I think the Broncos offense takes a very, very big step forward.
Terp, going back to Achane and the uncertainty there, Ollie Gordon has been steaming up drafts. Jalen Wright still goes before him at the 1207. Ollie Gordon not off the board. I just wanted to ask because I saw Jalen Wright kind of center my screen. If Achane doesn't work out, are either of those guys going to be? Are both of them just going to be bums? Is one of them going to become fantasy valuable? Is one of them going to actually break out? Or are you buying either Ollie Gordon or Jalen Wright, especially with the Achane cap injury?
My draft plan is usually get as many receivers as I can early and just in these middle rounds just stack handcuff running backs. So guys like Jalen Wright, Ollie Gordon, they're going to hit a lot of my teams. I'm probably a little bit more on Jalen than I am on Ollie Gordon. I feel like preseason's a hard judge to see exactly. I think I still like Jalen Wright. I still have drafted him on a couple teams. I'll add some Ollie Gordon, but they're just upside plays. I think if something happens to Achane, which hopefully it doesn't, hopefully this is all smoke and mirrors and he's fine and there's no worries and it's all just precaution. But if it's not, these guys have tons of value. They have one of these guys is probably going to get a ton of carries and a ton of work in the passing game from Tua. So if it's me, it's Jalen Wright. But I see the Ollie Gordon love, but we go back to the same thing in the rookie running backs. Can they pass block? Because if there's ever a situation where you better know how to pass block, it's in Miami because Tua could be one more hit away from his career being ended. So if Ollie Gordon gets out there and he can't, hit that linebacker in the hole, guess where Ollie Gordon's going to be sitting? On the bench. So I'll take the Jalen Wright dip that's happening right now, but no real convincing either way.
Howard, obviously, I know you said earlier in the show you're not an Achane guy. You kind of alluded you're not really a Dolphins guy, period. But does your kind of Achane uncertainty lead you to Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon, or is, as I said, just a complete fade of the Dolphins?
No, I like grabbing Jalen Wright late because I do feel like if there is concern about Achane and his calf, I think Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon become a really nice tandem. Kind of cut in that whole Achane Mostert kind of a situation. So I'm more bullish on Jalen Wright. I think he's the more complete back at this point in time right now. So I'll take him. I'm happy to grab him. When you're grabbing some of these, late round guys, what do you want? Do you want Tyler Algier behind Bijan Robinson? Do you want Will Shipley behind Saquon Barkley? Or do you want Jalen Wright, who's sitting there, we've seen McDaniel use tandem running back situations before. It's not like Achane's the only guy who's going to get touches this year.
Howard, I did want to bring up, we talked about the Jets. Justin Fields is a personal opinion, a guy who's being undervalued because, as Terp kind of said, even if he can't throw the ball, his rushing upside, he hasn't been able to throw the ball his whole career. And when he started, I believe he's been a top 12 quarterback more often than not because of that rushing floor. At QB 15 in this draft, are you with me on Justin Fields being a great value at quarterback?
No, yeah. Anytime if you can get a guy who can rush for 40, 50 yards a game, maybe steal a touchdown. That's, it's like a free 6 to 8 points each week, 10 points each week that you're going to start, getting that it does take it does add to the fact that if he does have a decent, even a half decent passing game, then, the rushing upside is going to happen. That's kind of where I've been with quarterbacks this year. I've been grabbing guys, like the top guys if I can, the Jalen Hurts and the Josh Allens and the Jaden Daniels. If I don't get them, then I look to Bo Nix. And if I don't get Bo Nix, then I start looking at guys like Justin Fields, Drake May, even JJ McCarthy to a certain extent, guys who can pick up some yards with their legs and just be able to have that, because it just raises the floor for them, even just a little bit.
Terp, you're shaking your head at me. QB 15, and you're shaking your head at me.
Justin Fields is a much easier click in best ball than he is in redraft. I'm still shaking my head because it's just, you have Purdy and you have Fields. Like, it's a really when you're doing this situation, to me, if I'm doing it, I'm just drafting Bo Nix, I'm drafting Brock Purdy, and then I'm just waiting on somebody deeper. Because when you put these guys so close, like Justin Fields, yeah, he has that ceiling, but he also has 4 points in his range of outcome, 5 points in his range of outcome, and just a total disaster, even with the rushing upside. I think the Jets are going to be just really hard to watch. I love Garrett Wilson, but he's getting another raw deal with Justin Fields. I know people say the Ohio State narrative, but he's going to get 6,000 targets, but are they going to be anywhere near?
He's the new DJ Moore, and Terry McLaurin preceded him in that. Great receivers who just never
if
had
Fields passes for 2,500 yards, at least 1,500 of those have to go to Garrett Wilson. There's nobody else going to catch passes.
That's a great point. I mean, there's literally it's team malpractice that they have Josh Reynolds as their number 2. Like, stop it. Like, a lot of hype on the tight end that they drafted Taylor, but I mean, come on. The corpse of Alan Lazard still running around in Jetsville. So let's stop
Malachi Corley.
I'll take Justin Fields in best ball. He's not a target of mine. I like everybody that's being drafted around them more. Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Brock Purdy. I'll take all those guys. All of them over in redraft too. I think this is the year where, if you, like Howard said, if you don't get one of them top 5 guys, you could easily wait on quarterback and catch lightning in the bottle with a Trevor Lawrence or a Drake May. Yeah. They could be the guy that, is a top 5 quarterback that we're talking about next year.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even that. Like, sometimes it's like Drake May, for example. He went as QB 11, so I wouldn't say like top 5 isn't.
This is also a weird draft. Yeah, because most of the quarterbacks, like
QB 6 goes
round, Baker Mayfield. Usually he's going higher in main events.
There's such a tier break after Hurts. Like, right, it's, Hurts goes at QB 5, and then there's multiple rounds until Mahomes goes, and then sometimes even multiple rounds.
The 9th round, Patrick Mahomes is a gift that you can't. I mean, I love Patrick Mahomes this year, but 9th round, that's crazy.
That is, I always go back to, I think Nelson said it. Nelson Sousa said, this is very possibly the lowest we'll see Patrick Mahomes be drafted.
Ever.
For
crazy.
as long as he's, the next 5 years, if that offense even slightly returns to form. No, it's definitely an interesting QB year. But, my point that I was trying to make is Drake May, because I'm with you, Trip. It's like, he can be a top 5 guy. And then you look back and I'm like, he's going as QB 11. It's only 6 spots higher than it's not the crazy. It's not like a QB, 22.
My thing with Drake May is, my love affair with stacking in any format, no matter what it is. It's really difficult to really who you stacking with May. Are you buying Stephon Diggs coming off a major injury? It's a hard buy. It's a, maybe you draft him as your wide receiver 5 and hope that the narrative is turned around with, that kind of injury. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I haven't heard many positive things about Stephon Diggs in camp so far. And then there's just a bunch of unknowns. You're not, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, Hunter Henry, who I love. But
Henry's really growing on me as a guy who
he's growing on you, but it's if you're waiting on tight end, he's not a bad spot, but it's hard to click him as your tight end 1. So with Drake May, he has to give you that rushing upside in certain formats.
Yeah, Team 5 is throwing it back to 2018 with the Hunter Henry, Travis Kelce as his 2 tight ends. A news bit that I completely forgot to mention that is also impactful was Daniel Jones is named the starting quarterback in Indy over Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Howard, how does that impact Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs? Neither are good options, let's be real. But is Daniel Jones the lesser of 2 evils in this situation too?
definitely the lesser of two evils. I said it before. I said I thought he'd be the starting quarterback week 1, months ago. I'm not, I mean, we saw the hype on Anthony Richardson. He just hasn't taken any steps forward. He hasn't fixed his game at all.
I was wrong on him. I was a huge fan of him.
You know what? We all
It was
were.
hard not to be. Everybody was.
We were all kind of psyched about the possibility and what could be with him. But, I mean, it really has. I mean, it's been terrible. So, Michael Pittman in the 9th round with Daniel Jones there, that's a gift for everybody. I think it helps Tyler Warren. It helps Michael Pittman. I'm not a huge Josh Downs guy. I mean, he's, fine chain mover if you want to do that. But what's that?
0% Josh Downs. I'm with you there.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I've got a ton of Pittman and I've got, some good shares of Warren in there. And as soon as Daniel Jones got mentioned, I was like, thank you. I feel so much better about being as invested in Pittman as I am.
Terp, your thoughts on Daniel Jones? Do you think it's a deserved big bump for these guys, or they kind of been priced in with maybe
1,000%? It makes Jonathan Taylor much more attractive. With Anthony Richardson, he's just gross. I mean, everybody's gross with Anthony Richardson except Anthony Richardson because he has that rushing upside. But he wasn't rushing when last year. So if he's not giving you that explosive ability with his legs, he cannot throw the football. I don't care what a couple camp passes show. Everybody, I won't draft a single Colts if Anthony Richardson is the quarterback. All my bets on Pittman, on Mitchell, on Warren are all with Daniel Jones. So and that's scary because Daniel Jones is not some superstar, but
those first 13 quarters of 2023, 2024 were amazing.
Nobody had him. Nobody used him. He was a backup at that point.
I think it was 2023, right? It was his rookie year. Those first 3 games that he was just
lit the world on fire.
Had like 5 rushing touchdowns and then never reached those peaks again.
Jonathan Taylor should be going higher than he is now. With Daniel.
Question for you both, Howard from I believe Rob Phillips and Shaq. Who are you taking? Well, I'm expanding on it. He just said Jonathan Taylor or Bucky Irving now.
I'm still taking Jonathan Taylor first. I love Jonathan Taylor. And again, like Terp just said, I mean, with Daniel Jones, it legitimizes the passing attack that you don't have to deal with a stacked box the entire time. Daniel Jones is going to run a bunch of RPO work as well. And you know what? It's going to keep linebackers frozen when they try to figure out what they're going to do. So I think Jonathan Taylor is great. Listen, I love Bucky Irving. I like what's happened here, but I do think that Josh Grizzard wants to throw the football a little bit more. I don't necessarily know if Bucky gets all the volume that he was getting, towards the tail end of last year. I've got Taylor ranked pretty high up on my board. I think he's just a fantastic runner. Everybody's going to dog me. Oh, he's going to miss like 3 or 4 games a year. Whatever. I don't draft like that. I don't draft worrying about a guy missing 3 or 4 games. I draft a guy based off of what I'm seeing from this offense, what I see from the player, and what I think that he can do on a full season. So give me Taylor.
Howard, we're in the 16th round, so I'm going to ask you. Coop requested that we ask you about your Sunday morning start-sit questions. And he was telling us about how you rip into people if they don't give into the proper info that you demand. I was wondering if you could expound upon this.
So I'm sitting on the radio, right? It's like we get one call. It's a 1-hour pre-show, right? We get one segment where we can just take some phone calls. And all I say is that don't give me your stupid pleasantries. I love the show. Hi, how are you? Like, don't give me that stuff. When I say hello, all I want to hear is who the players are that you're playing, that you're choosing from, and what your format is. Like, that's what I want to know. Don't ask me how I'm doing. I'm great. I'm getting paid to sit on the radio on a Sunday morning and talk fantasy football, right? How else do you think I am? So yeah, listen, that's my Sunday morning ritual, and it pisses a lot of people off. But you know what? Be courteous to your fellow listeners and stop screwing around on the phone. Just get your question in and get the hell out.
Yeah, exactly.
While we're on this topic, might as well, can you please let all our viewers know where they can find all of your work and how to listen to you during this upcoming season?
All right. So you can find me at fantasyalarm.com. I'm all over the pages there. I am on the Fantasy Alarm radio show on Sirius XM. That's Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And then once we get into football season, Sunday mornings from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. I throw a column down over at rtsports.com called The Weekly Bender. And I also write for a weekly column for the New York Post.
Hell yeah. I always want to do that earlier in the show. Zeus is not wanting to ask people how you're doing. It's diabolical. He's trying to help get all the listeners' questions in there.
Right.
Zeus, come on now. But I always want to get that in a little earlier in the show, and I always forget to end. So I'm glad I got that in because Howard's stuff is great. Terp, I do want to ask you, though, cloudy update on Isaiah Likely. Obviously, this was a guy who was going within the first 10 rounds when that training camp steam was hitting its peak, but the injury has, as you can clearly see, really tanked him. He goes as tight end 25 to 1609. Personally, I mean, this is amazing. Like, this is now 16th round. Even if he misses the first couple weeks, you can hold on to him. I think by mid-season, assuming that he does return somewhat healthy, he is going to be the main tight end target over Mark Andrews there. And people are getting amazing value with Likely. But I want to hear if you kind of share the same things. I know you and me both were kind of in on Likely when he was healthy, but where are you at now with kind of the injury and the continuing cloudy news?
I'm probably out on him now, to be honest with you. I mean, I know he's cheap. I get it, but like, it's a lot of unknown right now. I've heard nothing on Isaiah Likely in a while. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is he going to be ready for the season? I don't think he's going to be. And even if he is, I mean, Mark Andrews, the Ravens could have dealt him, I'm sure, to him numerous spots to get some sort of capital and chose not to. So Mark Andrews is still going to be a part of that offense. I've actually been drafting more Mark Andrews. I've never really been a Mark Andrews guy, but this year I really like where he's being drafted. I've got him in a lot of good value spots that made sense with the structures that I've been building. So I'm probably more in on Andrews than I've ever been. I like Likely, but the only way Likely gets to where he gets to is if something happens to Andrews. You're betting. It's a different bet than a running back bet. Like, you know, obviously if Mark Andrews gets hurt, then hey, Likely's a great pick. But you could say that a bunch of different situations. I don't like. I'm probably going to be out on Likely.
Double tap of kicker.
You should be locked up. You should be kicked out of the draft.
Yeah, is that a mistake? Do we need to back that pick out?
I mean, I hope somebody's backing some pick out, man, because that is just terrible.
Not an auto pick. That was like with time on the
now.
clock.
Okay, now I'm going to say something real quick that might not make it terrible. Maybe he's trying to get a free look.
Oh, it is the free look. It's definitely the Friday game, and then he's going to drop off.
Fine. Not. It's still a terrible pick, but
good
fine.
spot. At least there's a reason.
I hope that's the reason. Because if it's any other reasoning,
reason.
You should be locked up for drafting 2 kickers.
I will say, I think last year was here. We saw someone draft 4 kickers, and they were all the free look. It was like Elliott, whoever the Packers guy was, Bucker, and Tucker. Like he had all 4. Just insane work. Maybe it was 3 of them.
Silly.
Howard, Steve G in the chat says his Sunday routine is he reads the post, reads your column, and then he eats his bagel.
Oh, nice. Everything bagel, scallion cream cheese, a lock spread. What are we doing?
I would love to know that. Bagels with cream cheese are my favorite food. Give me an everything bagel with cream cheese, and I'm a happy man.
So up here in Alaska right now, I got the Traeger smoker sitting out there. I'm gonna start smoking my own salmon here. Fresh caught salmon. Let's go.
That sounds positive.
Oh man, that is. I saw you had like a river in your backyard, essentially, like a football field away.
In my front yard, actually, 50 yards away from the door. It's the Mendenhall River.
Richard.
It's good stuff.
There we go. Wow.
Scooped bagels. Well, come on, Steve. Stop with the scooped bagels. Just eat the carbs, dude. You're having a bagel.
Own the carbs.
Own the carbs. Absolutely.
I love the
scooped bagels. When I was working here, Steve will appreciate this. When I was working at the Pine Hollow Country Club down in Syosset, right? I had to like scoop bagels for all the old ladies out there who just didn't want the extra carbs. Come on.
Yeah, I can't be a proponent of that. I'm going to shout out my 2 favorite bagel spots, NYBD down here in Raleigh and Bethesda Bagels up in Bethesda, Maryland. 2 best. Obviously, nothing compares to a New York bagel, but the two places I live. Those two.
The bagels here in Alaska suck.
And that doesn't surprise me.
Good.
It does not. There's not enough New York exports. I
Dude,
assume.
I gotta gold belly my bagels like monthly now. It's gonna be terrible.
Now, see, this is what you got to love about a late night main event. Draft is flying by the way, but we're talking about scooped out bagels in the chat.
Sometimes the wheels just fall off, and you just got to embrace it.
I prefer these conversations over discussing like Xavier.
Realistically, what are we talking about right now? Defenses. I mean, there's a couple guys that we could probably have a conversation about down here.
I'll give you one, and I'll start with Howard. What do you make? Is Aaron Rodgers completely toast, or is there anything there that could save? Obviously, Turk kind of mentioned no one's really talking about DK. No one's talking about Roman Wilson. He's the guy who's rumored to be the number 2 there in terms of the receiver room, but obviously Jonnu, Pat Freiermuth, Arthur Smith's affinity to just throw as many tight ends as possible on the field. Is it at all Roman Wilson? Was a 3rd-round pick last year. Was really good at Michigan, but injuries just kind of derailed his rookie season. Is there any chance that he becomes a target out of the slot for Aaron Rodgers there in Pittsburgh?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think this is going to be like a nightmare offense, right? Arthur Smith he's going to run like 13 personnel, 14 personnel, get a whole mess of tight ends in there. You're going to have Darnell Washington, Jonnu Smith, and Pat Freiermuth all running routes. I struggle with this one here because I've watched Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers over time now has just gotten to the point. There's a reason that he keeps fishing for like Alan Lazard, or maybe he's going to lure Randall Cobb out of retirement because he wants somebody to read defenses exactly the way he does. So that way, when he does a read and react route, that he's exactly where Rodgers wants him to be. Right. And I just don't necessarily see if that's really going to develop. That's why I worry about DK Metcalf, because Metcalf likes getting physical with the corners, and he's not the cleanest of route runners out there. And I think that he and Rodgers are going to have some
his
serious
play style
problems.
doesn't match with. I mean, Rodgers, I believe, had the quickest from snap to release in all of the NFL last year, and
he doesn't want to get hit.
He doesn't want to get hit. Now, is he removed from the Achilles? He's feeling more comfortable. Turp, correct me if I'm wrong. You were never like a DK guy, but you were drafting DK early. Where are you at on, as now in drafts? You said DK isn't being talked about. He's sometimes even 5th, 6th round, with the fact that his play style really doesn't match what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table.
It doesn't match it at all. I mean, he's not a precise route runner. He's not a Devontae Adams. He's not a Randall Cobb back in the heyday, Jordy Nelson, guys like that. I just don't see the fit. I'll take him in best ball just because he's starting to become cheaper because nobody's talking about him. But in a redraft league, I could see, DK Metcalf, you're just going to pray you don't play
against the kickers, boys. I'm sorry. He's doing the kickers. He's drafting all of them. Team 2.
Drafting all the free look.
He drafted Jake Elliott.
I don't get it, man.
So he didn't get Aubrey, but he has the other 3 free look, and assumably it's just going to drop.
Like, I don't. That's just silly. When also you have Brandon Ayuk on your team, Najee Harris on your team, you might not be ready for the season. Like, are you gonna be able to field a team week 1, but you'll have a kicker?
Based on how he's going to go, he can't get Kansas City. He's probably taking Dallas and the Chargers coming up here if he can get them, right?
I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Howard, we have a great question from Paul Teixeira in the chat here. He says, can we get your thoughts on some late round guys that seem to have a path to a more meaningful role than their ADP suggests? 1, Harold Fannin. 2, Zacchaeus, not even trying to say his first name, Damian Pierce, and Alik Ayomanor. Don't know if I said that last one right. Can you give us your thoughts on those 4 guys?
I'm not into Fannin all that much. I mean, I get that there's a little bit of upside there, but he's just not somebody who I'm really interested in. Zacchaeus is actually kind of an interesting thing. Olamide. Because
there we go.
Here's the thing: when you're talking about a guy like, he's what? He's got to just get by Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze. Listen, I think that Rome Odunze, and here's what my issue is, and maybe one of you guys can help me out with this one here. Rome Odunze was at the University of Washington, where Ryan Grubb was his coordinator. Mm-hmm. And we know what Ryan Grubb's offense does, right? He focuses very much on one wide receiver, and then everybody else who's on the field is running a route to pull coverage away, to try and pick a defensive player but it's always with the one guy in mind. And Rome Odunze was that guy in Washington, right? We saw him do it with DK Metcalf for the first 3 weeks last year. And then we saw him, take JSN and put him into that role when Metcalf got hurt. Rome Odunze, he's not the focal point of the Bears passing attack. So are we elevating Rome Odunze because of what we saw him as a featured wide receiver in college?
I think Rome Odunze becomes the featured receiver. That's, I think, it's not it's the most basic stuff.
DJ Moore.
So it's very funny because Howard, I remember emailing you last year. I love doing for every kind of guest we have on, just hitting them up a couple of days before the season and, asking them for their one ride or die. I know some people have multiple, just kind of like a name to give it. I just make a little graphic and it's a nice way to summarize all the great guests we had on and their kind of one ride or die prediction. Of course, me and Terp put ours on, and I know Terp has already been loud and proud about some of his names. Two names that I'm considering for mine are Odunze and Justin Fields, and who you two collectively have both been I don't know. I'm a believer in Odunze because the talent at Washington was unreal, beyond even just.
But that was at Washington. It was horrific last year.
But that wasn't because of him. That was because of Caleb Williams.
But are we sure it wasn't because of him?
Yes, I'm pretty confident it was. He had there was just so many absurd stats about he was the amount of times Caleb Williams just overthrew him. He had I think he had the most uncatchable balls thrown his way. Odunze's tearing up at training camp. I'm buying the talent. I'm buying the
that wide receiver room is probably one of the biggest questions in fantasy football right now. That if you figure out, you're going to make a lot of money because DJ Moore hasn't got one thing nice said about him so far, but he's being drafted the highest. Rome Odunze has had a little bit said about him. Luther Burden's starting to gain, positive, juice. And then you got Loveland, who, is a rookie tight end. So he's going to have some growing pains. Cole Kmet's there, but also, manufacture plays. And I saw they gave him a screen in the preseason game. Caleb Williams did look good, but then you have Zacchaeus there who can muck it all up. So if you could figure out that wide receiver room, you're going to be in a great shape because none of them are going at prices where they're crazy. DJ Moore starting to fall. Odunze's, kind of stuck in the same area where he's being drafted. Luther Burden's moving up a little bit, but that team right now, outside of Caleb Williams, is a bunch of questions. And if you could figure out the answers to the questions, you could be in some great shape.
As we said last week,
my answer is still Luther Burden.
Okay, as we said last week,
I like DJ Moore too, but I'm not on Odunze.
Bears are the number one swing team on our collective Mount Rushmore NFL's fantasy swing teams. Finishing the question though for Paul Teixeira, Howard, Damian Pierce and Alik Ayomanor were the other two names he was kind of asking about.
Was it Damian Pierce or Alec Pierce? Which one?
I believe it was
Damian.
I think it was Damian Pierce with the obviously the uncertainty there in the it was Damian Pierce.
Right, I just saw a report that Chubb was expected to, even though he lacks the burst that he did, he was still kind of favored for that job should Mixon miss any time. I mean, I don't mind Damian Pierce. He does better in a power gap blocking scheme, and he does it between the tackles. He's a guy where if you're just looking for running back depth and you've got, and you don't want to draft 4 kickers at the end, I don't mind taking a shot on him because of the uncertainty of that backfield right now. But I'm not too incredibly bullish on him. Ayomanor, I think, is a very, very talented receiver. I like Alik Ayomanor overall. Do I like him for this year? Nah, I'm having some issues there because I don't think Tyler Lockett is anything special at all, but I think that, I think Cam Ward's going to end up locking onto Ridley, locking onto Okonkwo. I just don't know how much we're going to see out of Ayomanor with regard to, what kind of snap share he's going to have. I think in like a dynasty format, I love grabbing Ayomanor.
I just would like to say, since we started this stream, the Beat Howard Bender draft, which is Big Gorilla League number. No, I wish that would have been cool. League number 101-492 is down to 4 out of 12. So I would guess usually how that goes is by Friday that thing will be sold out. So
when's the draft?
Somebody on this stream heard me talk and they were like, F that guy.
That gets filled by Friday, 100%.
Right? Oh, undoubtedly. Monday at 10 p.m. is the draft. It probably fills tomorrow, if I'm being honest, but we'll give Friday. for a thing. Terp, I believe next week we will be having coverage of a $5,000 entry, big payback league that filled today.
Never a doubt. You were worried about that. We've had a show that hasn't filled in a week and a half.
I was not worried about the big payback filling. That is a lie. I was worried about the main event from like 4 weeks ago. That one I was a little worried about because it filled like a couple hours before. Big payback I was not worried about, but I believe as of yesterday we got 4 out of 12. So 4 people just dropped $5K today, which is like
it is extremely wild that all the $5,000 leagues are gone and all the $10,000 leagues are gone. And
seven 5K big payback leagues this year, I believe is the number. That was number
gone
7.
with 2 weeks before almost the season starts. That's wild.
I will say, just as kind of a summary here, best ball tournament is outpacing last year, and that filled with about 5 days before kickoff. And Superflex is outpacing by almost 10% over last year. So if you want to play best ball, you only have like 10 days probably left to draft in that.
Easily. That's gonna be well in advance. Bare Knuckle looks like it's gonna make it this year too. There's only 4 spots left in that.
Oh, we'll see how that goes. I would
last year
love
they
for the
missed it,
return. We'll love to see return of the Bare Knuckle. And then Big Gorilla, obviously, Draftathon. We're going to have announcements very shortly about the kind of exciting charity we're partnering with. And obviously, Labor Day weekend's huge for drafts. But we'll have some announcements there. But yeah, no, all the contests are basically. I did want to kind of give the message to viewers, specifically best ball. If you're looking to get that baby's going to sell out well in advance of kickoff. So if you're looking to kind of lock in some spots there, you're going to want to get that in. That's going to do it for us. As I said, we'll be back next week. FFPC 5K Big Payback League, 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Myself, Dave Tripoli, Jake Vanetti, the 3 Goombas reunited. Howard, brilliant show as always. We appreciate having him. Maybe we'll see you in Vegas this year. Hopefully, if not this year, next year.
2 weeks, make it happen.
Work your magic, and just if you want to, one more time, just reiterate where we can find all of your work, where we can follow you and hear from you.
All right. Well, again, fantasyalarm.com, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Sunday mornings, once the season starts, 10 a.m. Eastern for that show. Weekly Bender article is over on rtsports.com. And I'm in the New York Post every weekend. Still overlapping with a little baseball talk here, but it's going to be football for the rest of the way. I've got the Beat Howard Bender Big Gorilla contest there. I'm also putting together a little bit of a league with for the Superflex Best Ball.
Yes, sir.
Trying to get that one going in there. So rotobuzzguy@gmail.com. If you want to jump in on this one here, it's going to be a fun little league. I'm going to put some other prizes in play for people who win that one as well. So
yeah, as we said, the Beat Howard Bender, Brad Northcutt in the stream saying he heard you this morning and signed up for the Beat Howard Bender. That the Big Gorilla Beat Howard Bender on Monday is kind of a free for all. That's just labeled on our lobby. If you want to play the Beat Howard Bender Superflex Best Ball Tournament for 35, email Howard. That's kind of a more exclusive league that kind of we're putting on. So if you want a spot in that, it's not listed on the lobby right now. You're going to have to email Howard, deposit, make sure you have at least $35 in your account. And then you'll be in that league. So a lot of B. Howard Bender drafts coming up. That's going to do it for us. A great draft. Thank you to everyone who watched, everyone who drafted. It was a really fun ride. We'll be back next week. The 3 Goombas, big payback, 5K draft coverage. Happy draft to everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.